Welcome back to Healing Out Loud. If you're returning from episode 8, I'm really glad that you're still here on this journey with me. And if this is your first time, welcome. You're stepping into a space where we talk about healing, faith, emotional growth, and what it really looks like to rebuild your life after pain. In episode 8, we talked about rebuilding after emotional loss, how to start again when you never got closure, and how healing is not something that happens overnight, but something that you walk through step by step. And today we're continuing that journey because after rebuilding, there's another stage that almost everyone eventually faces: learning to trust again. And I want to be honest with you. This part is not easy for most people because even when you start healing, there's still memories. There's still hesitation. There's still a voice in your mind that says, what if it happens again? And that question alone can change how you move in life. It can change how you see people. It can change how you approach your relationships. It can even change how you see yourself. So I want to start by saying this very clearly. If you are struggling to trust again, that does not mean you are broken. It means you've been through something that affected your sense of safety. That's human. That's real. And that deserves compassion, not shame. One of the hardest parts about heartbreak is that it doesn't just break connections. It can break your confidence. You start questioning your judgment. You start replaying moments. You start asking yourself, how did I miss that? And sometimes, without realizing it, you begin building walls instead of boundaries. And I want to slow down here because this difference is important. Walls say, I will never let anyone in again. But boundaries say, I will let people in slowly, wisely, and with discernment. Walls come from fear. Boundaries come from healing. And one of the goals of healing is not just to shut your heart off, but to protect it with wisdom. Because if you shut your heart off completely, you don't just block pain, you also block connections, love, and growth. And I don't believe that's what life is meant to be. I believe we're meant to heal and not harden. Now, trusting again doesn't mean trusting everyone. That's where your discernment comes in. Discernment is learning to move differently without becoming closed off. It's learning to say, I can love again, but I will move with wisdom this time. I can open up again, but I will take my time. I can trust again, but I will not ignore the red flags. And that balance is something that only comes with experience and healing. You don't learn it overnight. You don't learn it by copying somebody else's life or struggle. You learn it step by step, sometimes through peace, sometimes through discomfort, sometimes through reflection, and sometimes through prayer. Because one thing I've learned in this, healing and trust are deeply connected to your relationship with Yah. When you've been hurt, it's easy to lean on your own understanding, your own fear, and your own protection. But Yahuwah often leads us into a place where we learn how to trust Him again first before we trust people. Because when your foundation is grounded in Him, You don't move out of fear anymore. You move out of guidance, wisdom. You move out of peace. You move out of clarity. And that changes everything. Now, I want to say something to anyone who feels like they've been stuck in isolation. Because sometimes after heartbreak, isolation feels safe. It feels controlled. It feels like if I just stay away from people, I won't get hurt again. And in the short term, that can feel like protection. But the long term, it can also become a prison. Because healing is not meant to isolate you forever. It's meant to restore you. So you can reconnect, not with everyone, but with the right people at the right time, in the right way. And I want you to hear this clearly. Not everyone deserves access to you, but not everyone is meant to be shut out either. There is wisdom in learning the difference. There is wisdom in allowing Yahweh to guide your steps instead of letting fear make your decisions. Because fear will always choose isolation, but growth will always require movement. Even small movement, even slow movement, even cautious movement. That still counts. So if you're in a place where trust feels difficult right now, I want to encourage you with this. You do not have to rush your healing. You do not have to rush your trust. And you do not have to force yourself to feel safe before you're ready. But don't close the door completely either. Leave space for healing to continue. Leave space for a new experience. Leave space for Yahweh to bring restoration in ways you didn't expect. Because not every new connection is connected to your old pain. And not every season looks like the last one. Sometimes Yahweh sends new people, new opportunities, new peace, new understanding. But you have to be willing to see it without letting the old fears distort your vision. So let me leave you with this. You are not who hurt you. You are not what you went through. You are someone who is healing, learning, and growing. And trusting again doesn't mean forgetting the past. It means not letting the past control your future. Take your time, move with wisdom, and let Yahweh guide your steps as you learn to trust again. Not just others, but life and yourself and Him. Because you're still becoming and your story is still unfolding. I will see you in episode 10.